Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the EmpowerMAN podcast. It is your boy, Mikey G, coming to you from the free state of Florida. And tonight, as I was going over my notes and thinking about the intro, I was at a loss for words.
Never.
But I went back into the memory tank and I thought of a song from a popular TV show that coined you perfectly. And it goes a little something like this. Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me. And the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. Greg A. Tador the first. How are you, sir?
I am a golden girl. How are you?
I think that I would be a good Sophia.
I was going to say Blanche.
I probably would be Blanche. I was trying to be nice, but yeah, Blanche probably
Oh,
fits
you're
me
Blanche.
appropriately. I am Blanche. I am Blanche. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. It was the best show, man. I remember I first got my asphyxiation with cheesecake from watching the Golden Girls because anytime they had a dilemma, they settled it with cheesecake.
That is funny.
Like us, we would settle it with alcohol. But everyone's got their vice.
It's okay.
Everyone's got their vice. Greggy T, I love that shirt and I love that hat. And there's a match there or a correlation between the hat and the shirt. Where can our listeners find that, sir?
I'm marking out hard tonight. GBRS group, as always. Definitely the best. Those guys are awesome. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. And besides their gear, they're very forthcoming and very generous with their experience and their knowledge when it comes to equipment, gear, setup, optics, anything tactical. They're the shit. So
awesome, man. And also want to give a shout out to Publix Diet Ginger Ale. Publix, if you see these cans flying off the shelves, you know how to thank. But want to give a real quick shout out to my brand new Cuisinart single cup grind and brew coffee maker. Oh yeah, this thing is amazing. I cannot wait to use it. It is a K-Cup, but it brews fresh coffee every time by putting the beans in there. Hopefully it's a little bit easier to clean. Shout out to Cuisinart, but also shout out to Amazon for the $54 a month payment plan for the next 2 months.
Good old Amazon.
Amazon is the bomb. As tradition is for us here at EmpowerMAN Podcast, want to give a shout out to our cops, our firemen and women, our policemen and women. And as my watch went off as I was going through this, you probably heard that in the background, our EMTs, first responders. Thank you all for keeping our community safe and free. We love you.
Absolutely. Always want to give a shout out to all the special forces out there, the U.S. military powerhouse. Keep it up. Be careful out there. All the Gold Star families, thank you tremendously for your sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. So thank you. And stay safe out there.
Yes. And to kind of piggyback off our last episode, Greggy T brought a lot of great things to light with trafficking.
It was pretty deep.
It was pretty deep. And
I whipped out a Bible verse.
Hey, and keep them coming.
Who knew?
I knew it. I knew it. I saw it out of the corner of my eye, unlike the corner of your eye, which is still a little.
He's still making an appearance, but he's getting better. So probably another week and it'll be gone.
And I believe you have a matching black and blue on your index finger.
My trigger finger, man.
Ooh.
Yeah, but it's getting better. I'm all beat up right now.
That's all right, though, Greg. You're doing it for us.
Yes. Yep.
You're doing it for us. But what you're also doing for us is you are bringing awareness to a very important cause for you. And over the coming weeks, we're going to have hopefully more information as to where you, our listeners, can get involved to help these organizations. And hopefully down the road, we can collaborate with something near and dear to Greggy T's heart to really bring this to the forefront of people's minds.
So I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Thank you. More to come.
Thank you, man. Thank you for bringing that to the forefront. Big episode tonight. Acceptance. We have a hard time with it. I do. I don't know about you, but
Oh yeah, yes you do.
you know, well, I don't want to speak for you. But I know for myself, when it comes to members of the opposite sex, I tend to put unrealistic expectations on people. I tend to conjure an image of what I think they are versus what they are. I also tend to conjure up beliefs and have ideologies about how they should be. And that's completely wrong of me because, again, as we talked about with forgiveness and other episodes, I have to accept myself before I can accept other people. But before we go down that rabbit hole, Greg, I want to ask you a question. Why do you think we tend to put expectations on other people?
So I'm torn with the whole what you were just saying, how it's wrong of you to do that. Half of me agrees, and the other half of me doesn't. So I'm kind of conflicted. But
Right.
I think I don't know why we do it. I want to say it stems from maybe childhood, or we had some sort of look where we saw an example and we want to mirror it going forward. I that's
Absolutely.
the best I think. I don't know.
I think it's great. You know, it's funny. I had this thought process the other day as I go through my trials and tribulations of dating with a different mindset.
In
Uh,
South Florida.
in South Florida, I
Woo.
yeah, I picked the best times to be down here. No, it all works out the way it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I find in my dating life, I've always dated older women, like dated in relationships. I dated one younger girl. She was 10 years younger than me. And I had these expectations that she was this like innocent angel, like just she could do no wrong. But I didn't accept her for where she was in life. She was wounded because she had a traumatic family loss. She was getting out of a volatile relationship. And then I met her, which tends to be the kind of way the ball bounces when it comes to my relationship history. But I had these expectations that she could be something that she wasn't A, ready to be, B, she couldn't be.
Yep.
And that led me down a road of trying to prove to her, like, hey, you can do this, you can be this, instead of me saying, no, Mike, this is, you got to listen to me, right? My friend Robin, I hope she's listening. She always said, when someone tells you who they are, listen to them.
What's
This
up,
was,
Robin?
and I didn't do that. Robin, I haven't spoken in a while, but you know, I always love you. And I hope you're doing well there in New York City. Um, but that always stuck in my mind. She's like, when someone tells you who they are, don't ignore it. And I tended to ignore it because I had an expectation of what I wanted her to be versus what she really is. What are the dangers, Greg, for guys? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one out there that puts unrealistic expectations on friendships, on relationships, on businesses. What do you see the possible downfalls or pitfalls could be of someone putting unrealistic expectations on those types of scenarios?
I think we're all somewhat guilty of doing it at times. And the dangers are you can with when they're unrealistic, they're which means that they're not achievable. So no matter what that person or business venture or whatever does, even if you knock it out of the park and it's a home run, if your expectations aren't realistic, it doesn't matter. And you're always going to find something wrong or not good enough. And it just, it starts to snowball down a negative path because they weren't realistic. But the other half of me says it's good to set not unrealistic expectations, but high expectations because you have self-worth and self-value and you want the other person to show you something as well. It's not just a one-way street like, oh, let me prove to them, let me prove to them. Yes, you should do that, but they should also be doing the same equally to you. So that's where I'm conflicted.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and that's what makes the world go round because
Yeah.
everyone has a different perspective, and the more that we can share our thoughts with our listeners, the more they can take from us and they can make their own choices.
Yeah,
That's that's
I've had
definitely
a hard time coming to terms with, since you were talking about dating people. When I was dating people, and even now in my marriage, it's almost like you expect somebody to definitely have your mindset on something. It's not going to happen. That's not realistic. So if you get into an argument, or if someone gets frustrated in a conversation because you're just not seeing my point, yeah, you're probably not communicating it right. And did you set expectations realistically in your head? They're not going to automatically understand what you're saying. They're not in your head. And let's be honest, everyone deals with things differently and does things differently. Like you said, that's what makes the world go around. Opposites attract. And so let's use my wife for an example. I'm a science and math guy, and she's very creative and artsy. I am not. So how can I put an expectation on her to have the same outlook that I do? That's not realistic. So I have to keep that in mind constantly, or else there's going to be battles, and that's a big waste of time. And I have to accept how she looks at things, and just as way how she has to accept how I look at things. Not I didn't say agree, because it's okay to agree to disagree,
mm.
but that you have to have respect, acceptance of how they are, and they have to accept you as well.
And that's great. It's a great word you mentioned, respect. Respecting others, but respecting yourself.
Yeah, it
If
starts
you
there, like you always say.
Everything starts to finish starts with us. So, what our expectations are, and especially, and I'm going to use dating, for example, because a lot of my acceptance challenges have always been with members of the opposite sex. I think, you can't be everything to somebody. You cannot be their savior. You cannot be their father. You cannot be their friend. You cannot be their lover. You're playing so many different roles. It's going to exhaust you. And I've done that. I've tried to do that
We've all
for
done it.
people.
Yep.
We've all done it. And,
Hmm.
I guess with a lustful eye, you overlook certain things because the sex is intense or the passion's intense. And we tend to say, yeah, but the feeling I get when I'm with her is insane. So you tend to ignore the fact that this person needs time to heal. You got to give her space, let her do her thing, so she can get back to a better quality of life. So for guys out there, it's really important to have the awareness that when you meet somebody and there are certain things, Greg, you said they're red flags.
Yeah.
It's an awareness that, hey, if you want to be with this person, you have to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
You can't expect someone to like save the world when they don't even have the cape on. Is that pretty fair to say?
It's absolutely fair. You can't drag them down the street when they're not ready to go. They might not even want to go down the street.
Right. And as guys and girls too, if you're in that situation where there's a powerful attraction or there's a chemistry, you got to have the awareness to say, this is where so and so is in their life. I need to be careful that I don't go down the rabbit hole with them.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to get sucked into a situation to where not only do you have to deal with your stuff, but now you're taking on someone else's stuff that you have no business being involved in. Is that pretty safe to say?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean, if you're in, let's just take you as an example. I'm not going to speak for you, but you have your shit together. You have your company. You're scaling year to year. You're employing people. You're marketing, and you're a faithful guy, and you're very involved in your church. So you see the patterns here, and they are what they are. You meet somebody. I don't know. Maybe she's a little bit older. Whatever. And I'm not saying they have to have the same exact things, but setting expectations too high when you just said when you realize that you go on a first date or whatever and you get to know somebody and you start asking questions, they're asking questions, you're listening, and you realize, oh wow, this person's just, maybe they just got divorced or whatever. Maybe they're in party mode, which is great. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on that. You go do your thing. But that doesn't fit what you're in right now.
Right.
So you can't, not you, the
No.
guys out there, you can't expect to go on a second, third, fourth date and continue this with the expectation that they're going to fit into your mold, your
Exactly.
current mold. It's just not going to happen. It's a square peg in a round hole. Maybe they need a year, 2 years, 5 years. I don't know.
Exactly.
What it is, what it is, and it's a tough decision and it's a tough thing to navigate, like you said, especially if there's an attraction there or they make you feel a certain way. You just got to ask yourself, if is that what you want or is that what you're looking for, which I know you're not. So
Right.
it's, you gotta, the guys out there, you have to figure out, walk away. There's a million others, and you will find one that fits in your current mold.
Yeah. And you mentioned this before on several episodes, your non-negotiables.
Yeah,
Like I have non-negotiables now that I didn't have a couple of years ago
they're so
that
critical.
I can't really go back on. So when you meet somebody, it's either going to go one of two places, maybe three. You're right. Maybe you start a friendship, which is great. I never thought that guys and girls could be friends, but I'm seeing that now as I look at things differently. That yeah, it is possible.
Yeah.
Number two, it's either going to be a very casual relationship where, and I've been in that situation. I just got out of something casual because at the end of the day, it just ran its course, and I just was turned off by it because, again, it's not lining up with those things.
Exactly.
Going back to the Bible, Galatians talks about, if you walk with the Spirit, you'll less satisfy the desires of the flesh, and that's a whole other topic about purity and stuff like that that we struggle with as men. Or you're gonna find the girl of your dreams, you're gonna get married, and you're gonna start a family, and you're gonna have all those things in alignment. Now, I'm very, very what I want in someone is very, very, very clear. Again, I can't put expectations on someone to make them say, "Oh, you have to come to church with me," or "You have to have a career," or "You have to work out." Those three things over the last couple of years have become the focal points of my life because I want to live healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
If God gives me another 40 years left on this planet and I live to 85, I don't want to be going to bars like dragging home God knows who, doing God knows what. I did that, well, all right, let's change the topic.
What's today? Monday, right?
That's terrible. That's terrible. Only kidding. Only kidding. Only
Just a
kidding.
joke.
Just a joke.
Ooh.
But I know. But anyway, so I agree with you 100% there, Greg. Why meeting people? How do you accept a business situation? You walk into something and there's a scenario that's presented, and you can't, because I think there's a certain type of control or amount of control we like to have as people.
Yeah.
When you don't have that control, it kind of can get you frustrated and kind of angry. How do you come to acceptance with a certain situation in a business dealing? And then how would you kind of grow from that?
That's a great question, and it's a big multi-layered question. So how I've dealt with it currently is the non-negotiables, like you said, you have to have them. But you also have to have acceptance, and also acceptance of yourself. You and I are very similar. We're animals. We are very speed driven when it comes to a task. If I'm presented a task at 9 o'clock, I want it. I won't stop until it's off my plate. 9:05, done. Now I put that expectation on other people constantly, or at least I did. And when things are out of your control, you just have to give in to a certain degree. I can't expect people in business to be on my time frame and on my speed all the time. It's impossible. You and I deal with certain things. We put an email out, we have some questions. I don't want to wait an hour, 2 hours till the end of the day. It drives me up the wall. I know it drives you crazy too. Because if you and I received an email I was always known for my response time. That's what I built my career on. So if I get something, I'm answering it right away if I have the answer. If I don't have the answer, I'm getting the answer right away so I can respond. I've learned, especially in real estate, because half the agents are all morons out there, more than half, probably 80%, being nice. They're on their own time frame. And in this business, time kills everything. We'll get into it in the episode we're going to have about real estate, but deals die on the vine all the time simply because someone took their sweet ass time responding to an email. So that's where my non-negotiables come in. If it's a hard thing to accept in business that someone isn't on your, I'm not going to say level, because that people take that the wrong way. They're just not on your speed, and they don't have the same vision as you or the same drive as you. You and me are very driven people. Oh, and we know a lot of people. Oh yeah, I'll get around to it. It's Monday. Okay, can I hear from you tomorrow? Maybe end of the week. Don't even get me started on Florida. You're in the worst state because you work about, not you, they probably work 2 to 3 days a week in Florida. Tuesday, Wednesday, half of Thursday. No one works the second half of Thursday or Friday or Monday. Florida's on its own fucking time schedule. But good example, you can't expect somebody to be go, go, go. Especially we lived in Manhattan, that's just how it was. That's how it was. So you have to accept that most people are not going to be on your time frame, and if you don't accept it, you're going to drive yourself crazy and waste time, and you're going to start focusing on the wrong things. You just got to, and I'm not saying give them a week to respond. No, there's boundaries that have to be set, and if they don't meet those timelines, then yeah, you fire them or you find somebody else. But you have to accept that not everyone's going to do and work at the same speed that you do.
So let me throw a curveball at you here, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
What won't you accept in business or when working, leading a team? What won't you accept from people?
Disrespect to the team or the company or the mission statement. I won't accept that. Um, I won't accept unprofessionalism. I know that's a very vague umbrella word, but I will not accept unprofessionalism. We'll use real estate as an example since it's the day to day. You got to look on point, you got to act on point, you got to speak on point, know your numbers, know your marketing, just be on point, as I call it. I say it all the time in my group, but I do not tolerate unprofessionalism, talking badly about a person, especially a fellow agent, a company, even another company, even a competitor. It's not good. It's a very small world, the business world, and word travels fast. Don't be that person, because there's going to come a time you might need that other person or that other company. And guess who they're not going to help? They're not going to help you because you talk shit about them. So those are that I will not accept that.
Yeah, no, I mirror those sentiments
I
there,
know you
Greg.
do.
I don't accept mediocrity. I have a hard time. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm working for myself. I do have one person that's courageous enough to work with me, and I have to keep myself in check because I can't like put a stranglehold on him and expect him to be. The only thing we can do is elevate others, to elevate people to our level. But I will not accept mediocrity. I will not accept a half of an effort that they should be giving. I don't care if someone messes up every day.
Yep.
At some point, they're going to get it. But as long as you get up and try, for me, you've already won me over.
Yeah.
Those are things I'm not willing to accept. I'm not willing to accept someone who doesn't give 100% every day. You don't have to be in tip-top physical form mentally and physically, and you're going to have your good days and bad days, but be present. When I was wrestling in my heyday, I would go out till wee hours of the morning, but I was at work 6:30 in the morning with a bottle of Advil, a cup of coffee, and a scope. And I tell you what, I'd crank out 6 or 7 sessions in a row, and I got my best work done when I was hungover. Now, that's probably a problem for some people listening to this, as Timmy, my God rest his soul, so functionally coined me a functioning alcoholic back then, but I don't know if that was completely
No,
true.
no.
But point being is I if I'm gonna go out and do something the night before, I'm gonna make sure like, hey, do me, but I'm gonna be on point for my job and handle my stuff. And it comes down to professionalism and handling your business, Craig.
Listen, let me tell you, I got a funny story to mirror yours. I was in a couple different softball leagues. One of them was on a Sunday morning at like
I
9
remember.
o'clock.
I remember.
And I don't know why I agreed to play with these animals, but it was a cool group of guys, all friends, and our boy Justin was on the team with Hendry. And I remember one morning from going out the night before with you. Thanks, Mike. We had a game, and I am just puking my lungs out in the parking lot before the game. But I was on time. I was ready to play, and I was expected to basically hit home runs to score points because some of the guys on my team couldn't hit. So, what did I tell myself? I'm in no condition to run today. I have to hit the ball far so I could walk around the bases. And that's what I did. Moral of the story, I showed up, even though I was out the night before with you.
And I believe that was along the same time that I was in a softball league in Oyster Bay with my friend Anthony.
Oyster Bay.
Yes, and that was
Cool
always
place.
fun
Cool
schlepping out
place.
there. It was cool. I had a lot of fun, and I remember after the game my friend loved this one restaurant. We would just crush food, but like, being hungover. Those are the good old days, man. But again, our stories are that doesn't matter what
Still
you did
showed up.
before, still show up and handle your stuff.
Well, I have a question for you regarding this person.
Yeah,
You don't accept mediocrity. I
I
completely
don't.
agree with all that. When do you pull the cord if it goes down that direction?
Well, it's a, it's a great question. I've thought about it. It's just having an honest conversation. I think there's a way I've learned to temper myself in how words come out of my mouth, because it can be really misconstrued. Because I'm a very passionate, I can be very intense at times.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that.
People mistake that as anger. At least for me, they
They
do.
do. Yeah, you're very
Yeah, I'm apparently I'm angry 24/7 when I'm really not. Maybe a few times, but just mostly it's just passion, and
That's a say. Greg, you're very passionate.
Yes, I am.
Passionate. But it's funny in business, as we've learned, I tend to bring people into the business that I trust.
Mhm.
So the fact that I have already trust with this person from before we even got into business helps. So he knows the expectations, he's clear of it, and he feels a certain responsibility that he doesn't want to let me down. So that makes me feel good.
That's a nice thing to have.
It's because, again, like I said, it's not about what you can accomplish. It's about your effort, because if the effort's there, you can accomplish anything.
Yep.
As long as you show up every day and you try. If you fall down 99 times, I guarantee when you get back up for that 100th time, you're going to stay up.
Yeah, I agree.
As long as you try. But it's a very delicate thing to do, especially nowadays, because you can't be like you were before the pandemic and really lay in to people like we've been like kind of ripped into at times. So, you don't really want to let the problem fester. You have to accept, like I accept where the person I'm working at, where they are right now. One thing about myself is when it comes to business, I'm hyper organized. And I'm all about putting together a plan. meeting where someone in their development, or which we call them professional development meetings. I know when I was in corporate America, PDMs. So it's really having a development meeting or a development plan with someone to see their trajectory. And, with a certain variance in the schedule, if you can see the trajectory going up or going down, can you really have some background as to when to have that conversation where you say, hey, you know what, this really isn't working out.
Yeah.
Maybe go get some experience working for somebody else to come back to me in a couple of years, or maybe this isn't the right line of work for you.
Yeah.
But you got to give people the opportunity to fail, failing forward. Like I was given several opportunities to fail, and I did, and I learned. And that's why I'm so thankful and blessed to be in this position that I'm in right now. Hope I answered that okay.
Yeah. No, it's good.
You know, quick question for you here, Greggy T. With family members, I have another hard time with this one, accepting some of my family members for who they are, because again, you want them to be something that they're not really capable of. Have you ever had to, or is there a certain example you can think of when it comes to family members for yourself that you want them to be something else because you could see their potential, or you could see like, why are you acting like this, or why do you behave like this, or why do you make these choices, and come to the realization like this is who they are, they're not going to change.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've faced that. I don't have a problem. I have a small family, so I have an older sister. I it is never a question of accepting her. She's my family, so it's all good. It's a great example of accepting different thought patterns because we are completely different, which is fine. I have no problem with that. It's just it's sometimes it gets lost in the communication, the translation of the statement, how it lands, or how it's I think it should land, but it's obviously perceived a different way, vice versa. So it's always that dynamic, but it's never a question of acceptance of the person. That's family. That's a given. It's more of the acceptance of the either it's the way of life, or if you're picking a political topic or a finance topic or whatever, it's the acceptance of that specific conversation.
Here's one for you. As we are now, you know, middle-aged men, I'm half,
Yep.
I'm halfway to 90.
Glad we made it this far.
That is true. How do you accept where you're at physically? Because I have had a hard time, getting back into wrestling, which is something that my true passion. I realized that when I first got back into it, I was getting thrown around, loved it. But I woke up the next day and I felt like I got run over by a truck.
Yeah.
So I realized that my body is not where it was when I was younger, but through CrossFit, I have been able to achieve a pretty good level of conditioning. So while I don't train like I train and getting that, there's no, you cannot make up getting in the ring in that ring condition. But CrossFit is pretty functional in how it translates. And that's the one thing I'm amazed at, because my conditioning and my endurance, I'm so thankful that I can hang with people half my age. But it does get frustrating knowing that I can't do a lot of things that I used to do, and realizing that the hourglass on what I can do is getting thinner. It's like those marbles in the bin that you mentioned several episodes ago.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to accept yourself where you're at physically?
I'm fighting it all the way. No.
Oh, jeez.
I'm
Like,
kidding.
no. That's been hard for me, man. It's been a hard one because it's like,
It is hard. I think it's hard for anybody. I can't just say easily like, "Oh, I've just accepted it." It sucks. I talk about it with my mom all the time. She laughs at me because it's not the same as when we were younger. You and I were really strong back in the day. We're still strong now. I'm not saying we're not, but we were freakishly strong when we were younger, and we were proud of that, and we lifted all the time. I think also getting injured played a big part in my psychological
right.
focus on you never think about it until it happens. people listening, I tore my pec off the bone, warming up actually. But ever since then, I'm always worried now that I can tear, not that the surgery went great, but like tear another muscle or whatever. So I've accepted that I can't perform at the level that I used to. But that doesn't mean I can't perform at an ultra high level for how I am now. I was Division 1 swimmer. I was in incredible shape, like you said, with the endurance and the just the level of wind capacity, my lungs. And I'm back in the pool now. So in one hand, I feel like a piece of shit because I can't do anything I used to, but how could I? It's a different, I'm not training, 2, 3 times a day,
Mm.
but I'm grateful to be back in the pool and get my wind back as well as, lifting my weights. So I'm very happy with where I'm at now. And I have goals. They're different than what they used to. I'm not looking to, you know, leg press 1,500 pounds or squat 500 pounds. And that doesn't, you know, it's not attractive to me anymore. What is functional training, like you said, so I can play more with my daughters and I can hang with, like you said, if you drop me in any situation, I'm not winded all the time. And, that's my motivation now.
Yeah, and it's funny since I started doing CrossFit. By the way, great idea. By the way, um,
Glad somebody's doing it.
wonderful idea. It's crazy to think. And I had this conversation with someone yesterday, and I'm a big advocate for CrossFit. So if there's any guy out there that wants to make a complete life change, CrossFit absolutely changed my life, the way I look at my business, the way I look at health and wellness. It was the best decision I ever made. And a lot of the injuries I had with my shoulder, my back, just the aches and pains I had because I wasn't doing the things that I should have done out of fear, because I always put myself last and others first for fear of losing my job, fear of getting in trouble at work, fear of this. And now that I work for myself, myself is number one, and I've been able to address certain things. I'm I deadlifted the other day, and I am almost to the point strength wise to where I was 15 years ago. And it's insane because
It's awesome.
anything science based, you would think like there's no way that this type of, like, if I said, by the way, before I go do squats, I'm going to do a 12-minute, as many rounds as possible, burpee box jump overs with dumbbell alternating snatches. You're pre fatiguing your muscles. You're going to be shot. But I still got on the squat rack and did an adequate amount of weight. Now my legs and my rear end were killing me, but if I take a day to do a 3RM, a 2RM, the weight will and I've seen it going up, and you're like, holy, like, I can't believe that I was able to do this. So while it's important to understand where you're at physically and accepting the fact that I'm not 25 anymore, I'm not 30 anymore, I don't have ambitions of being a WWE superstar or being here. I just want to do X, Y, and Z, and accepting that, and then taking the measures. Like you said, you're into functional training now. I'm more into the entire CrossFit because it has helped me with longevity and hopefully wrestling another couple years that
Yeah.
I would enjoy before I say, hey, I really can't do this anymore. So I think CrossFit has really helped me to accept where I'm at physically and build off that. So acceptance isn't like a death sentence. It's not like,
Yeah.
all right, well, you know what? I'm 45. I have 18 clients.
Let's
I got to
throw
do
the towel in.
right. And what did you say? And I'm going to reference this because it was great. You've said this before. People give up too easily
Yeah.
on relationships, on marriages, on business. It's accepting the fact where we're at. Like, look at where EmpowerMAN is. Look at where it's going.
Yeah.
So while acceptance can be a guardrail for us, it provides a starting point, but also allows you to say, hey, you know what? These are the expectations we have now. But in 6 months, a year, that's going to change.
Yeah.
You
I
know what I'm
mean,
saying?
look at the soldiers that got wounded, got their leg blown off, or got both legs blown off, or their arms blown off, and they're doing triathlons. They're doing. Listen, if they accepted what happened and they didn't do anything about it, but they accepted the new way of life, and they're raising the level and doing the best and most they can with that now. So it's a awesome example, especially if the next time any of us feel like complaining, we shouldn't.
I agree.
That's my motivation.
Agreed. That's a
Could be a
great
lot worse.
example. It's a great example. And acceptance is such a big umbrella term because yes, you need to accept yourself, you need to accept others, you need to accept where people are at. You need to accept the fact that where you're at, there's all these different things because acceptance creates an inner peace with us,
Mm-hmm.
provides us a starting point for our compass as to what direction we want to take our life or certain situations in. It's okay to accept certain things. It's not okay to accept certain things. Having those non-negotiables, what you're willing to settle for in a relationship, what you're willing to settle for in a business arrangement, what you're willing to settle for in a friendship or a sporting endeavor or anything that you're passionate about. um, Acceptance plays a big role. Greg, what are some ways that you could coach someone on how to handle acceptance?
For themselves, you mean?
Just in general, like how do I accept the fact that I don't own a home right now, but it's an ambition of mine that I want to have, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
frustrated all the time? How would you coach me on how to say, hey, it is what it is right now?
Yeah, I would say just it is what it is right now. However, you might be frustrated because you don't have the house today, but that doesn't mean you can't have a house a year from now or 2 years from now and have the house that's meant to be your house. I hate that cliche, but it's so true. If it's meant to be, it'll be. When we were looking for houses, we were dead set on this one house. And it was like a bidding war. We got crushed. There was like, I think 6 offers, and we were like second to last or something. And we were like devastated. I remember. I'm so glad we didn't get that house. Now, at the time, last thing on my mind, I would never have said that. But today, it wasn't meant to be. And when I was on the sales side of things, when I was taking buyers out, and up here, the environment's crazy. There's multiple offers. Things are going 2, 3, 400,000 over asking. It's insane. It's very competitive. So I used to tell my buyers, listen, put your best foot forward. Do what you can. Do what you're comfortable with. How high should I go? If, as high as you're okay walking away from it, because the odds are you probably aren't going to get it. And that's not Debbie Downer or pessimistic. That's just a realistic approach, and that's how I was always transparent like that. So I would say to somebody like you, like, yeah, you might be frustrated now, but in the meantime, let's get all the other steps taken care of now. So when the time comes, now it's just a matter of pulling a trigger and you're good.
Mm.
You have all your ducks in a row, you have all your paperwork in a row, you have everything. So now it becomes how it should be. It should be fun. When you buy a house or a condo or a townhome or whatever, an apartment, it should be fun. And I think a lot of the fun is lost. But okay, you're frustrated. Okay, I get it. But that doesn't mean stop the train. The show goes on, the train's still going down the track, which is towards eventually the home you want to buy. When you get there, make sure everything is done in the meantime in that gap. Don't just stop and then you have to restart when you finally get there. So that's fine. Be frustrated, but now channel your frustration into getting all your ducks in a row, your down payment, or whatever, your credit up, all sorts of things, and use that as motivation. So when the time comes, it's a done deal.
No, that's a great way of looking at things, Greg. I talk about the Bible in some of my dialogue. Um, Jesus' brother James talks about when troubles come your way, take an opportunity for joy, because when your faith has a chance to get tested, your endurance grows, and when your endurance grows, your faith actually gets stronger. I'm paraphrasing. Um, and once you build up that threshold, that tolerance of waiting, and that endurance is fully grown and perfect and complete, you'll be complete, and nothing will that you want, you will have to kind of, it won't like burden you, because you won't need anything, because you've got faith. You've got your faith's been tested. So,
Makes
having
sense.
that patience, right? So, like right now, it's like, oh man, I really want to grow my business, or I really want a home. But you know what? Take joy in that. And it's like, oh, are you nuts? But when you can break it down, it's like, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, I don't have a home yet, but I'm working on it,
Hmm.
because the more I have that in my mind, or growing my business, or doing something wrestling oriented wise, it's yes, like I'm amped up, because I'm not there now, but there are certain paths and steps I'm going to take so that I can get to that place. Because when I have that endurance, I'll be perfect and complete, and I won't need anything, because I have my faith has been allowed to grow.
It makes total sense. And it reminds me of somebody that I know that beat cancer. I think there's two different types of people. When somebody gets news like that, you hear the stories, like some people just go with the flow. And they're like, okay, I'll deal with it, whatever. And they come out the other end and they're good. Then there's the other people that just, it swallows them and they get frozen, and it's just horrible. And they have a pretty bad outcome. And it always made me wonder, like, wow, how is that person? Let me just go with the flow. I'll figure it out, and then I'll do what I can. I'm going to stay positive. It's what you just said. It's the mental life endurance that they've accumulated throughout their life, on top of their mindset. When it's all in the same pot working together, it's clearly a great way to look at things.
Yeah. And I say it every episode, but it all comes from the Bible, man. The Bible is, to me, is the playbook of life. I wish I would have had this sooner, but things happen when they're supposed to happen. And I'm
Hmm.
going to wrap up my part of this with something I came up with about the 5 C's of handling acceptance, right? You got to know you can't control others or situations. You can only really control yourself and your actions. Um, know that people make choices, both good and bad, and you're not going to really have a influence on those choices. You may, but at the end of the day, they're the ones going to push pause, or
You
the
can
ones that's
try
going to
your
push
best,
play.
but like Mike said, it's their choice, whether it's the one you would have made or not. It's not
Yeah,
yours.
yeah. And one with relationships, we talked about this. You want to consider all the options, what you are willing to deal with and what you're not willing to deal with. And every guy has it, every girl has it. So when you are with somebody trying to figure out the next steps of the relationship, the pros and cons list might not be a bad thing to do. Um, you want to come from a place of love, not anger, because again, anger only adds more fuel to the fire. So, accepting comes from a place of love and contentment, being content where the other person is in life, and not trying to kill yourself, trying to prove them that you can fix them. Now, obviously, this is pretty much geared around towards dating and
Mhm.
the opposite sex, both men and women. But I believe that the 5 C's of acceptance can be used in any situation, Greg. And those are my final
Absolutely.
thoughts.
Absolutely. And I like that. Those 5 C's. Listen, we can influence as much as we want, much as we can, but at the end of the day, someone's going to make the decision that they're going to make. If they're a family member or a friend, just be a friend to them. And listen, we all don't make the right choices, but true friends stick by their boys no matter what the decision is. It's
Yep.
like the unconditional love for a parent. The kid can do no wrong, even though when they do a wrong, there's still love there. They don't agree with it. They wouldn't have made that decision, but it is what it is.
As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend, my
Yeah.
friend. And
Yep.
yeah, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Greggy T, if someone wants to reach out to us, where can they find us?
The easiest and quickest way is just DM us on Instagram. You can also comment on YouTube. You can also, hit us up on our website, empowermanpodcast.com. But if you want the quickest response, Mike and I are always on Instagram, and we read and get back to everybody. So that's the way to go.
Awesome, man. And I'm really excited for next week's episode,
Yeah.
because my friend, um, V Ginny Burton. Well, Ginny Burton, but her professional name is V for, I would imagine it's for Virginia. Ginny Burton. I've always called her Ginny. Um, we're going to talk about addiction, and people are wondering maybe, well, why is a woman coming on a man's podcast? Well, we're going to bring a lot of girls on here, because it's important for men to understand different perspectives,
Yeah.
to understand how the different sex thinks and their thought process, because it'll help us understand them better. But when you hear Ginny's story, now Ginny has been on Tucker Carlson. Her life is absolutely incredible. And I'll share more with how I met Ginny and how I shook up a friendship with her during the episode. But really, addiction, whether it's gambling, drinking, pornography, drugs,
Pre-workouts.
Pre-workouts, coffee. I mean, I don't think anybody has as many coffee makers as I do. Cuisinart, thank you. Amazon, thank you for allowing me to afford to buy this. There's something for everyone, and you can take so much away from Ginny. And at EmpowerMAN, we provide a platform for everyone. This is a show for everyone. It is geared towards the development of men because we want to make better men. But through making better men, we can help women understand us better so that we can be more harmonious.
Well said. This is for everybody. And I'm super excited to have her on. I got a ton of questions, and I just want to be a sponge and listen to what she has to say. So super pumped for that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And then the following week, we've got the Panda Man returns.
Yes. Kyle, I got to tell you, I love fasting. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, and while you guys are fasting, I'm going to have a stack of pancakes.
Yes, that's fine.
Eggs, bacon, coffee, and orange juice. You guys can talk. I'll just be eating in the background. So.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mike. Today was a good one.
Yes.
And we look forward to seeing everybody next week. Make it a good one. Be good to each other and be safe out there. Have a good one.